You guys hear that? That's the video game industry, and it's always evolving, not just as a whole, but from genre to genre, company to company, developer to developer, and arguably, more importantly, game series themselves are always evolving. Now, sure, I could have said games to games because not all games are part of a series, we know this, especially because some individual games themselves also adapt to the new demands within a genre or the industry as a whole by remodeling the product. The product, of course, being the game or games to come. Hell, this is why so many games on Steam are released as early access so they can make major changes based on player feedback and such. This is notably true for multiplayer titles such as Team Fortress 2, which is part of a series, but that's beside the point, as multiplayer games don't often remodel to the extent that single-player games that are part of the series do, nor do they implement as many new game mechanics or elements as sequels within a series will do, simply because that would alter the game completely in an often more negative aspect. Single-player game series that are long-running have the ability to completely remodel their next game in some of its mechanics. Of course, this is as long as it's somewhat relevant to the narrative it has created and has done so to make the game fun. We've seen this happen a lot with game series like Fallout, Metal Gear, and one of my childhood favorites, The Legend of Zelda. Single-player games often adapt through innovation, modernization, and implementation. Fallout and Metal Gear had massive changes after their first few releases. The Fallout series went from your standard top-down RPG to a more FPS combat-oriented RPG, and did so fairly quickly too. Some may argue this was done to adapt to the current demands of the gaming industry and keep their series relevant, or bring new life into the series, which can be seen as selfish and not that cool. But some may also argue this allowed for much more content and game mechanics to be implemented into the game, which is a good thing and is kinda cool. The first Fallout game to be played in first person was actually Fallout 3. This title was released in 2008, which happened to be one of the many years in which FPS games thrived. Games like Crysis, Far Cry 2, Left 4 Dead, as well as some Call of Duty and Battlefield games were all released in this very year. Not only were these games released, but they happen to be smash hits and are still played to this day. Even years prior to 2008, there was an abundance of FPS games that were already doing well. Another funny thing is that the aforementioned games continue to release sequels and profit off of the genre and the players it garnered. When mentioning Fallout's transition from top-down to first-person, it's really just an example of a game series adapting to the demands of the industry's supporters, as it was evident that people loved FPS games being released at the time and years prior. So, companies and developers took notes and continued releasing sequels and more FPS games, even if it wasn't something they were too experienced in. But it could be argued that this trend really started after the release of Half-Life 2 in 2004, because many game developers noticed how it had been very well received by people, so in turn, many decided to take inspiration from certain aspects of the game. This had a huge impact on the gaming industry as a result, which I kinda already hinted at when I mentioned the smash hits of 2008. So anyway, this leaves me with many examples of several different series of games adapting to the trends and demands. Half-Life as a series itself has left stains on the gaming industry in many new releases. It inspired games to alter their physics engines and focus on narrative a little more. When listing games that were inspired by such aspects of Half-Life 2, many often use 2007's Halo 3. While I can't completely agree due to the fact that I've never really played Halo games, therefore my knowledge is a little more primitive in that regard, but I really wouldn't doubt it, as Half-Life has affected games in many minor ways. So who knows, maybe it's more evident when inspecting the more minute details of the game, but when I take a look at the game on a surface level, it's harder to see the stains of Half-Life within it. Many often state Half-Life caused games to improve graphically and focus more on the brilliancy of their storytelling through an FPS game. This should really only leave more evidence of series of games adapting to their environment through the modernization and implementation of new game mechanics, which is arguably what I was trying to get at when mentioning Half-Life 2. But speaking of implementation and modernization, did I tell you that my favorite series to mention when talking about this is The Legend of Zelda? This is because not only have they done these things so many times, but in doing so they often innovate the series and add something never seen before within its respective series and genre as a whole. For the longest time, the Zelda games were simply 2D dungeon crawlers with a generic hero's journey narrative, but the 5th installment changed everything. Ocarina of Time was a whole new game. Released literally the same month and year as the original Half-Life, the game added so much new content and lore to the series. It was the first 3D game in the series, adding horseback riding and first-person bow and arrow sequences to the game, as well as new enemy and landscape variety. Of course, this was a smash hit and is one of the most well-received games in video game history. The reception practically advocated for a similar sequel, and that's exactly what Nintendo did. The release of Majora's Mask in 2000 practically sealed Zelda's fate as never again being just a 2D dungeon crawler. I mean, sure, they still produced and released a few more 2D games for the Game Boy Advance, such as the Four Swords and the Minish Cap, But even these games were completely changed and had adapted to the demands of the industry by then. From that day on, The Legend of Zelda became a little more than just a game to some. But this was not the only adaptation and innovation Nintendo would do to this beloved series of games. One of the biggest examples of game series adapting through innovation, modernization, and implementation has happened within the past few years. Breath of the Wild is the name of the game, and it's a completely different Zelda title entirely, as it has implemented RPG elements and a ton of weapon variety, and with said weapon variety comes all new gameplay mechanics and styles. This game almost feels like it has single-handedly released the series from its shackles, as it is no longer just a linear adventure game. Miyamoto just throws us into an open world with so much freedom and new landscapes. This title is just a modernized Nintendo game that uses an open world and combines / takes advantage of the amazingly intricate and complex lore that the Zelda series has to offer. This game single-handedly springs Zelda back into conversation at the dinner table. No longer do people just think of Zelda as just one of those Nintendo games. People that have never even touched a previous Zelda title pick this game up and enjoy it as if it has been missing from their lives. Hell, I mean, many developers of long-running game series have attempted similar things, but it normally doesn't result in such positive feedback. The Doom series has attempted similar feats, and some of us know how that went. But for those of you who don't, it all began with Doom 3, which ultimately failed. So they stepped back and developed something that became well received with the public, because Doom 3 seemed to be viewed as different from all the previous installments in the Doom series in an often more negative light. ID Software heard this and decided to develop something that felt more similar to the classics, but with a whole new graphical overhaul as well as minor gameplay and level changes. This ended up being what we know today as Doom 2016, and now Doom Eternal. I know. Clap it up for ID Software, as they have just fucking clapped back. This is a different example of a game series adapting to the industry though, because unlike Nintendo's Breath of the Wild, it doesn't completely innovate the game series with new mechanics and items. Rather, it focuses more on modernization through graphical and gameplay upgrades. Both Breath of the Wild and Doom 2016 are good examples of game series adaptation, as in a way they stay true to their origins through either lore, level design, art style, or minor gameplay elements and mechanics. But many can argue these games are also completely different from their previous installments in many other ways beyond graphical upgrades. But the reason these forms of adaptation work so well is because of how it tends to feel refreshing yet familiar, especially to those who merely just grew up playing a bit of Doom or Zelda games, almost giving you a bit of undeserved nostalgia as you remember sitting on your couch or chair wasting the day away on your Wii, NES, Nintendo 64, or in the case of Doom, PC. But ultimately, all long-running game series must adapt to the ever-so-changing industry in order to maintain relevancy and a healthy fan base. But they must do so in a way that actually breathes new life into the series and gives the player a reason to stick around. Again, all games do this in some shape or form, but single-player game series often do so in such a unique way that includes more modernization, implementation, and a bit of innovation, one that is often a gamble and kinda hard to get right. One that so many game developers may envy. Those of you who didn't want to watch this longer video and maybe just want to hear my point, this is for you. In a nutshell, long-running single-player game series often adapt to their environments through modernization and implementation of new game mechanics, sometimes with a bit of innovation within their respective genres as well, but more specifically, series such as The Legend of Zelda, Doom, and Fallout all do it in different ways that work for them. Like Doom focused more on modernization and a bit of implementation and has tried innovation in the past but arguably failed, while Zelda has historically focused on both implementation and modernization, as well as a bit of innovation which found them success in many cases, while Fallout just kinda goes with the flow, aka modernization. I know this video may not have made much sense as I was really just babbling nonsense while attempting to string it all into a coherent video essay, but hey, I hope you enjoyed and can possibly have some meaningful conversations about video games down below, because I actually really enjoy hearing what you guys would like to say in regards to the topic at hand, especially because we had some great conversations on the Rage 2 subreddit last time I uploaded a video like this. My goal with these videos is really just to spark/respark conversations regarding video games on the internet, and that's arguably what my last video did on the Rage 2 subreddit, which I really enjoyed. So yeah, now the video's over now, guys. So if you want to leave, you could leave right now. But let me tell you guys some things. So first off, this video has been in the works for a long time. The script itself has actually been in the works for a long time. I had to edit and revise the script so many fucking times because here's the thing. When you're writing a video essay, you don't want it to be too quote-unquote wordy. You don't want to have as much descriptive language as you would in like your normal school essay, right? Because then it just gets so hard to fucking read out loud. I had to edit and revise this script so many times, mainly because I wanted to actually, like, you know, make sure my point was, like, you know, coherent. You guys could actually, like, kind of understand what I'm fucking saying, and so it doesn't sound like nonsense. But yeah, I really enjoyed making this video regardless. I like the last video I made on open world games, so I decided to just spew more of my garbage out on the internet. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoy your day, and hope you guys enjoy these kind of videos. I'm definitely uploading these videos more. I have so much more ideas in regards to video essays like this. So yeah, but I'm also going to be uploading some other stuff. My channel isn't going to turn into some fucking pyrocynical Petscop 2 blah 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 nakey jakey bullshit, right? Like, it's still going to be my channel. I'm still going to, I will definitely still upload these videos, but I'm also going to upload other stuff, like more videos like how are your balls nigga.mp4. I'm still going to upload more videos like that if I want to. I'm really just doing what I want to on this channel, and I happen to want to make a video essay about video games. Next time it might be about anime, but the reason I'm not going to do that is because I don't really know if my fan base would like that, you know? Fuck, what the fuck am I talking about? Fan base? Alright, anyway, see you guys. Hope you guys enjoyed.